Well, I feel like we did find a lot of stars.
Definitely did.
So do you think we found any stars in Starfinder?
We were the stars all along.
Yeah, we found me.
Oh, it's a metaphor.
You were you're the breakout star.
Yeah.
Bolt's the SRO.
Bolt's is the best boy.
Got to get some Bolt's merch.
Ooh,
Heck
now
yeah.
Yeah. That.
Your old Bolt's popcorn bucket.
Cosplay Bolts.
Nope.
Hey, if we're doing marketing, I can sell Minion t-shirts.
Oh yeah, Minions.
I'm with Minion. Me too.
No, if one thing the world needs more of is more Minions merchandise.
Oh, trademark.
no.
But this
gosh,
is
sorry, I didn't even think of those, and now I hate myself. Thanks a lot.
Too late. Too late.
this is Broadcast Adventures. I am your host, Joseph Blanchett, and with me is the players in our recent Starfinder adventure, which I shall introduce right now. How about Mark Schneider? Hello.
Oh, I go for Hi, I'm the Kobold. I always play the Kobold. Hi, everybody.
Yeah. We got Brice. Hey, Brice.
I was the funny robot.
He was a series regular. We have a relative newcomer, but she was in one of our Candlekeep mystery games. We had Candlekeep mystery games. We have Boom Cow. Hello.
Hola.
And friend of a friend of the podcast, we have our new friend Calix.
Resident. It's not me. He didn't say anything, but resident Starfinder.
Our resident Paizo expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calix, say something so we know you're there.
Yeah, I was Dragon the. I mean, I was Wolf the Dragon Candelaria, not Dragon the Wolf. I was Wolf the Dragon.
Dragging the wolf around.
Dragon.
Yep. Without Calix running a Paizo system for Starfinder would have been a lot harder. So, thank you for helping me through it.
No problem. And Paizo, if you're listening, make me a brand ambassador and start paying me. See, I got people into the game.
Yeah, you got people into
Definitely
Paizo
did.
because we definitely want to run more Starfinder, and I'll probably end up running maybe a Pathfinder thing too when the time comes. So we'll see all about that. But we had just finished our very first Starfinder campaign. It was a standalone adventure called Junker's Delight, which you can really thank Humble Bundle, because they had a Roll20 bundle, and I got the adventure for basically free. So that free adventure led to me purchasing the physical book, and then another physical book, and then 9 other physical books for a couple of adventure paths. So
Joey is literally selling me several of his D&D books that he doesn't need anymore because he needs space for Starfinder.
Yeah. But I will be using most of them in the future, so that's good.
Yes.
Most of them were used on eBay. So I wasn't paying full price for every single one. So
Keeping it alive.
Yep. But yeah, this was our first non-D&D adventure, and I think the adventure itself was a lot of fun. I think we all enjoyed it. I hope.
Technically, the one shot that Calix ran for us as a prelude.
Okay, yes, Calix did run us a one shot.
Stop minimizing what Calix has done.
Yeah, that was just a basic pre-printed one-shot designed for people to learn how to do it and for me to reteach myself how to do it because it had been a while since I played Starfinder.
Yeah, and it was a good way to kind of like set it, because we had I forget what the adventure's called, but everybody's a Skittermancer. So we had pre-gen characters. We just looked at and picked the cutest ones for each of us, and that was an easy way to just kind of like jump in.
Well, I picked mine because he was purple. So
that's what purple's cute.
Yeah.
I picked the one I could do my nerd voice with. Hello, I'm your nerd voice.
And mine was just cool.
Starfinder. is kind of the sci-fi counterpart of Pathfinder. And one reason why I think this adventure was good is it played a lot like just like a standard D&D adventure, because it didn't involve all the crazy like starship battles and multi-planet stuff that a lot of Starfinder adventures have. So I think this was a pretty good introductory adventure for new players.
Definitely felt that way. It was just your sort of, you're on a planet and you have things to do on the planet. You could somewhat easily swap that out with any other system to be, and any other theme to just be, you're in the mines of whatever, and there's a town in there, and you have to deal with the people there, or what have you. But it was a unique sort of setting that they did. It was Junkyard Planet, which was cool.
Yep. Planet called Akaton, which in the Starfinder world used to be a place where they mined starship fuel. But since the new hotness, the drift engines came around, they didn't need that fuel anymore. So the whole planet just basically became like abandoned and in a kind of lawless, and place where this adventure took place was basically a giant starship junkyard.
One of the really sorry.
Yeah, it was just like a place where let's just put all our trash here because it seems convenient.
One of the really cool little story points of Akaton that I really liked is that before the what was it called? The forgetting, when everyone forgot everything in the universe.
Oh, the gap.
Yeah, the gap.
The gap. I like how nobody knows why all of these ships are crashed here and why there's so much junk there. I thought that was really cool. So there's the potential for a lot of ancient lost history. So Akaton is a really cool setting. I mean, you could run an entire campaign on Akaton.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the planet shows up a bunch in the official adventure paths. I know there's one adventure path where the drift basically goes away. No one can use the drift anymore, and that's how they travel the. That's how they travel the universe. Basically, is a plane called the Drift, and all of a sudden, since the drift isn't working, it's called the Drift Crisis, I think. All of a sudden, people want this starship fuel again. So all of a sudden, Akaton is a major player again in this adventure path, or these series of adventure paths.
That's cool.
Yeah, these. Oh gosh, the drift stopped working. Okay, where's Triune? Just unplug him and plug him back in. I'm sure a restart will fix it.
Yeah, it's one of the newer adventures.
Yeah, for those who don't know, because I don't know as many people are familiar with Starfinder and Pathfinder lore as D&D. Triune is a AI god that was formed by the combination of 3 AI gods joined into a single entity, and he gifted star travel through the drift, a basically plane of existence that is outside the own and allows for kind of like entering warp in Star Trek. Mm-hmm. It's just its own, except rather than just moving, it's just its own plane of existence, and you can go places fast in it. But every time you go into the drift sucks a little bit of the material world into it.
Well, I bet that's fine. I bet that won't come back to bite everyone in the butt.
I would be concerned, but one of the 3 gods that formed Triune is Cassandra Lee, and I trust Cassandra Lee. And I don't trust the other 2, but I trust Cassandra Lee.
What's cool about the Starfinder setting is their adventure paths kind of do tell a ongoing this is how the universe is changing. Over the course of a few years. Whereas in D&D, everything is just kind of static. But I know with Pathfinder, Starfinder, they do kind of evolve the world as the adventures continue. There's an actual continuity to everything, all the major events. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think D&D is that static unless it's changed, because I remember there were a lot of major events, especially in the 2nd edition days, and I assume they kept on going, but I never really did an official pre-made D&D adventure.
Yeah, at least for 5th edition, it's you can kind of do like there's no timeline for any of like the books really. All the major story stuff happens like in between the editions. But like nothing crazy is going to affect like the other books moving forward.
Yeah, I'm just remembering that time in second edition where all the gods were no longer gods because Ao, or however his name's pronounced, got angry at them all for being petty idiots, not doing their job. Possible says, "Okay, screw it. I'm throwing you all down to the material plane. I'm done with you people."
So I'm gonna go over each character here and like what kind of drew you to playing that class in this new system. Let's start with Mark.
Yay!
You played an envoy.
Envoy, yeah. So they're sort of the.
No, wait, were you an envoy or an operative?
No, I was operative. Sorry, operative.
Yeah.
I was looking at the suit. So that was the operative. It's the sort of rogue of Starfinder. Except at least with the first couple of levels, it wasn't super tactical. Pretty much ended up just being, trying to take a trick shot to get more damage, and then keep doing it. However, I did do it in such a way that I was like a technological person, so I was picking skills and abilities for the 3 levels that we were in that would benefit from just like exploring or tinkering with stuff in a junkyard, which should come in handy once in a while.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat thing because you say it's like the rogue because it basically has sneak attack, but you can do that sneak attack. You can do it through stealth, but you can also do it through intimidation and, in your case, engineering.
Yeah, it's basically, rather than just having a static sort of, this is why you get extra damage, it kind of encourages you to figure out a way to get that damage, and it kind of like gives you several options you can do it. So you can just do it stealthily. If you're hiding, you would basically be able to take a trick shot. Or if you could say, hey, that guy's like standing on a explosive barrel, I'm going to try and shoot the barrel or something like that. You could say, hey, that's my trick shot and do that. Or you can just do something that fits the 3 or 4 skills that you're given to try and get that thing. And it does make you think less mechanically and more flavorfully, and that was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy that. Yeah,
since we're in a junkyard, you would say like, okay, I aim for the loose piece of debris, so like it will fall on a person for extra damage, things like that.
One of the feats I took was, or one of the operative things that I took, the features, not the feats themselves, but like the class features, was that you could basically just pick up something and it would just be an improvised weapon. You get a better bonus to that rather than just doing a normal improvised weapon or on our attack or whatnot. And you're in a junkyard, so I'm like, hey, I'll just pick up whatever I want. In case I get like disarmed or if I need to close quarter something, like just be like, hey, here's a piece of junk. I'm stabbing you with this discarded egg beater because I know how to use it. And later on, and I didn't get to use this because it was like the last level that I had it in, is that you could, one of the feats I took, the normal feats, I was small and I could just basically use any sort of like thing in the environment as cover. Flip over a table, dive behind something. I was doing that in the last combat, but again, that would have been interesting in if we were in more junkyard areas while I had that skill. We just happened to be boss fighting at that point.
Or if you have like a shootout in like an office, office building, like knocking over all the tables. Brice, you played Bolts, the highly marketable character Bolts. He's a SRO, which I forget what it stands for, but he was basically he's a robot, like literally just a robot. Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up, but I'm gonna guess sentient robotic organism.
I was about to say sentient something, robotic organism. And you played an engineer.
I did, which overlapped heavily with our operative.
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't actually tell me what SROs.
I'm pretty sure it's sentient robotic organism.
We'll go with that. Yep. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. In the first one as a Skittermancer, I was an envoy, which you guys were correctly likened to a bard. So wanted to do something a little different, and Yeah, I was basically building towards like being a sniper, and it was a lot of fun. I hope no one got bored with my turns when all I did was take aim and shoot. But
Simple point and click interface.
Yeah, grenade.
I did. I was gonna go towards a grenade mancer, and I took some feats to specialize in grenades near the end. Too bad my coolest grenades, the ones that enhanced the damage of my gun, neither of which I used ever landed.
So the main thing with engineers is they can have a drone, or they can have a implant.
Right. Called the
and
exocortex.
Exocortex. And you chose the one that just gives you some extra stats and abilities because we didn't want to bother with a
drone fly. Right. The
extra
drone...
character in our first game.
Exactly. Yeah, you can give the drone like upgrades and abilities, and he acts like a little assistant for you. Or the exocortex is more to make you kind of more independent and self-sufficient. The thing that I got to with the level we went was that the exocortex lets you target an enemy to give you enhanced to hit chance.
Mm-hmm. Gives you heavy armor for some reason. Not really sure how that's part of it.
Well, you got to protect the delicate wiring and electronics.
Yeah, just wanted to butt in for a second to say that the class was mechanic, not engineer.
Oh,
so.
yeah, I get those.
I didn't even notice you were saying that. Yeah, mechanic is what I was for sure, which made sense. Because I was like our handler's repair guy.
Yeah, the drone is literally almost another character. It levels up. It has feats. It has upgrades. Yeah. It has all this stuff.
I was not willing to do that.
And what I liked about from like a gameplay standpoint is you were a robot and you were actually a construct in terms of gameplay. And like in D&D, whenever they do like a robot race, because they have a couple, they always have to like bend the rules a little bit, saying, yeah, healing spells still work. You don't have the drawbacks from being a construct for the most part. In Starfinder and I assume Pathfinder, it's just like, yeah, you're a construct. You heal for half. You have all these crazy things like you can't be put to sleep or be knocked out or all this other stuff.
With D&D, there's a fair amount of like it's a lot more mechanically balanced, or at least try to be. So when you stray from the norm of what a character race needed to be, which is humanoid, not a construct. Certain size, etc., they have to figure out a way to bend it into there because that's how the game is built. But I agree with you where you're saying, like, with Starfinder, it's like, whatever, here's the flower man. He's from the flower planet. He has flower power. He heals from the sun.
Yeah, because there's some stuff with constructs where it's like, oh, like, it says you're immune to non-lethal damage.
Yep.
It's like some weapons just do non-lethal damage. You're just immune to it, and
great.
instant death effects you're immune to. And they had to like draw the line somewhere, so it's not like all the constructs construct stuff. But like, yeah, you don't have to breathe, you don't have to sleep, you don't have to.
Joey, this never came up, but to your point, one of the things is that anything that a character might use the medicine skill on for a normal organism, they would use the engineering skill instead if they were doing that to an SR.
Oh, yeah.
Which just completely makes sense.
But like one thing that it did have, it's like you take half effectiveness from healing items, from magic healing items. So it's like, you only regain like any form of healing, you only regain half of it. So during a long rest, you only regain half of the hit points. If you take a potion, a serum, you only take half the healing.
Yep.
So I guess that's kind of like evens out like that.
It's all math at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know in the other game they can do stuff like overload weapons and cause them to explode if you take certain paths. How about you, Cal?
Oh, what about me? Which character did I play? I played a very, very exotic, unheard of race. I was a human, and I was a soldier. I figured tried and true human fighter, and that's kind of what this soldier was. With the exception, I got a gun, so that made it even better.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every round you cast bullet.
Oh yeah, almost every round. There's a couple times I cast bullet a little differently to give other people a bonus to their attack. But yeah, pretty much.
Cool thing about soldier is they're very you can build them in a lot of different ways because they get a ton of feats. So like you probably weren't using them to like 100% effectiveness in this like in our first very short adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But like what they make up for in lack of like battle things of shooting things, they have a lot of ways they can do it if you build the character in certain ways.
I was building more for survivability. I had a feat that allowed me to heal double whenever I rested, which is really, really useful. I mean, it would have been if I, was a melee soldier. But I think I chose the class because I kind of felt like all of these smart engineering nerds needed a little muscle there.
Yeah. You were the one that would go up to like the bad guys and just like, you know what, I'm just gonna punch them.
I mean,
before the battle started, not during the battle.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to mention about my character is even though I was a human, I still felt kind of a little bit like a misfit on Akaton because the humans there are very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely inspired by like John Carter Mars, where all the humans have like red skin on Akaton.
Hit Disney movie John Carter.
And that's the thing about Akaton is that everyone's an outcast, so everyone fits in.
Yeah, I think about humans in Starfinder is they're actually not the dominant like race in the galaxy, even where they're native from. Because
Kind of makes sense because humans are from one planet.
Well, they branched out. Like you remember the like the space Nazi empire.
Oh right.
Yeah, like
Look that up. Look that up, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called the Atlantean Empire for those who want to see the space Nazis, if that's what you came to Starfinder for.
Yeah, but since this is the Pathfinder world, part of the gap where everyone lost their memories is that the planet where Pathfinder takes place on just disappeared. And guess who are on that planet? It's all of the dwarfs and elves and humans and stuff. So all the ones that are in Starfinder are ones that were off the planet at the time, like off their own world.
Well, the elves actually already had their own planet because elves are basically the actually race. So like, so Galarian was lost and we lost control, and the elves are like, actually, I guess it's perfectly fine.
I guess Pathfinder, you could already go to other planets because you can go to Akaton in Pathfinder.
Really?
Yeah.
Pathfinder has a spell called Interplanetary Teleport. You can literally use it to teleport to other planets.
Yeah, because I was curious about this, and Akaton is a place you can go to, and in those the Ishaki lizards and the Shobads are things you can play as in Pathfinder.
Yeah, there is a Pathfinder campaign called Iron Gods that is basically a prequel to Starfinder. As I mentioned, Trusting Cassandra Lee earlier, she's one of the Iron Gods introduced in that one, where even though it's Pathfinder, it's still a sci-fi campaign where you're fighting a bunch of robots and aliens, and just so there is stuff there. And I remember we had some extra content added in by the GM where we actually went into space and fought some things as well as did some light time travel.
So in Pathfinder, you can travel to other planets through spells, and I know that there are androids in Pathfinder, like not the same types that are in Starfinder, but there are like mechanical beings.
Mechanical beans.
Mechanical beings. I thought the android, like very 13. I thought just how they live their life and then another soul like takes over their body whenever they die. I thought that was like really interesting.
Yeah, it's how the androids reproduce. Basically, when they die, the soul. Sometimes they do it voluntarily. They like give up their soul. It goes off to wherever souls go in this world, and another one just kind of takes its place and takes over the body.
They're literally a version control number. It was. Now I'm just connecting that's probably why they chose V for very, so they can just say it's V13. Like, obviously the 13 is the number, but I didn't think about it being like version 13.
A lot of androids choose to put the number up, their iteration after their name.
Yeah.
Some choose brand new names or nicknames. But like Various 13 is the only one that I know of because it's the only adventure I ran. But but yeah, it's like some honor their predecessors by having the same name. But some choose to have their own name. Most of them are humans. Some choose to look like other species and stuff. And there's a thing too where wouldn't you know, these androids used to be slaves, and they rebelled and all that. And actually, it wasn't too long ago in the Starfinder history when that happened. So Very 8 in the story, like, probably wouldn't have been free. Like, she probably would have been owned by whatever corporation was doing those experiments.
It's probably Disney. It's probably Disney.
Yeah, probably Disney.
Yeah.
I'm not sure because it was right after the gap, so. Like all the androids probably didn't have rights at that point. And from what I understand, it's still kind of going on too. There's like pockets of the universe where the androids still don't have their freedom. But last but not least, Calyx, who did you play?
Yep, I played Wolf the Dragonkin Solarian. So, Dragonkins are basically just bipedal dragons that are medium or large size. And as for Solarian, well, I played a lot of tabletop RPGs. I've been playing since 2nd edition D&D, switched to Pathfinder when 4th edition D&D came out, and have basically been on that, and that's what I'm still on for my main thing. But because I've been playing for so long, I tend to be more drawn to classes that are more mechanically unusual, because I have played so many characters. Actually, I haven't played that many characters because I'm a forever GM, but I have built so many characters of different classes by now. And Solarian is basically the Space Paladin mechanically, but still considerably different from how it works. For basically, the best way to describe them is they're Green Lanterns. They fight with constructs they create out of light. Though the Solarians basically gain power from the stars and from the gravity between stars. So you have stellar mode and graviton mode. Basically, stars and black holes are your power you draw from. And at level 1, you choose to either make a weapon or armor. Solarian weapon is what I went with. So I had my little Solarian claws that dealt slashing damage that were my construct I created during a fight. And I took heavy armor proficiency because I knew that going into I knew I was the only dedicated melee person, which meant I was going to get beat up a lot. But in place of spells or mercies like paladins have, I get stellar revelations, which allow me to do some really cool things. Like I eventually started using, oh gosh darn it! I just forgot the name of the ability that I was using for charges. Stellar Rush.
Full rush.
Yeah, where I could basically charge someone without provoking it, without having the normal penalties associated with it, and then also get a guaranteed 2d6 fire damage. So they'd get a reflex save for half on that. But
That's an ability that one of the final bosses had, but I forgot to actually do it.
yeah, I'm not surprised she had it, because for low-level Solarians, it's basically the best ability a low-level Solarian can get. There are some cool things as you level up that where the class starts to become more unique and unusual. One of the really cool things I like, when you get higher level, you can eventually run around and leave a trail of fire where you're going and move without provoking attacks of opportunity. So you can basically just run around the entire battlefield really fast and encircle enemies in little squares of fire so that they can't move around without catching on fire, and then stop in melee with them. So now their choices are either fight you in melee or go through the fire.
So I think in like your case, you want to be like toe-to-toe fighter, but it sounds like they're kind of like a monk. They're kind of like hit and run.
I mean, they can be that. So that's a high-level ability. So you'd mostly be hitting in melee before you got that ability, and that's more of a crowd control area before you end adjacent to whoever you want to attack. So that's used for manipulating the battlefield rather than doing a run by attack. So I'm trying to think if there is a way to do run by attacks with Solarian, because as far as I'm aware, you always have to, unless you're using a gun, you always have to be in melee to actually attack with your weapon.
Would you ever want to like have a ranged Solarian? It seems like you always want to be up like toe to toe with people.
Well, here's the thing. This is like the third melee character I've ever rolled. Wait, no, fourth. I usually play support casters because I tend to normally go for whatever the party is lacking, which 9 times out of 10 puts me in a support caster position.
Yeah, like one thing we were making characters, I was like, Starfinder has a lot of weird stuff. Like, if you want to play the class that, has nanites in their body, then you can figure that out. But like, I suggest you kind of stick with some of the basic ones. But Acalus is like, nope, I'm playing the Star Jedi.
Yeah, so I wanted to do something different. So I made a be in your face character, and you know what? I got the tar beat out of me badly throughout the entire campaign, but none of the party members ever dropped. So I did my job as tank.
It was very rare if anyone else ever took damage.
I don't think I took damage. I think I got stabbed once.
The most damage I took was from that exploding electronic equipment that somehow stores pressure. I guess it runs on pressure technology.
Of energy.
That's not how it. But
I talked a lot of trash on the True Warriors, so I definitely took a couple hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't negate all the hits perfectly, but I thought I did a pretty good job tanking. And what's actually kind of funny is that in character, Wolf did not know that he's a Solarian. He thought his Solarian powers were just things he could do because he was a dragon. And nothing ever happened, or no one ever talked to him or asked him enough questions or anything to get him to realize that wasn't the case. But like I wrote
you got a minion out of it.
Yeah, I wrote a decent sized background story about it, and I'll probably post it with a link to the podcast eventually to try to get a few more listeners to go listen to our adventures. But he basically he was stolen from Triaxis as an egg, and raised by the True Warriors for the most part, who had wanted his egg thinking they were getting a dragon, and were angry they got a dragon kid and treated him like their rabid attack dog instead. And despite that, he is mostly optimistic. Despite that being the story, the background story I told him for is mostly pretty funny with a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor, despite the fact that horrible things are going on. I'm doing all of it as fun to be as funny as possible.
Yeah,
so
if I was going, go ahead.
You're one of those people that are just really good at you're a writer essentially for your characters.
Oh yeah,
like that.
I'm a professional writer. I have a book. I've been being paid to write for a long time. So
right, excellent.
Yeah,
I've
I am
edited
a writer. I
Wikipedia
approach.
articles in my time, and the edits are still up there, so that's practically the same thing. But I'm me being a visual art person. The writing does not flow like that for me, so I'll have like the ideas for things, the pictures of things, and the more of a feeling, and I don't like put the I can't put like a big old backstory into that. So it's always interesting to see like people who are able to just say, "Hey, here's my character. I wrote 12 pages, to both sides of the paper, by the way, for his backstory."
You act like
And
it's a lot.
yeah, see, that's the thing. I sit there to be like, "Well, I maybe did a page in screenplay format."
So just by coincidence, one of the bad guys of the this adventure was a Solarian too. And if I was like not homebrewing, but if I was going a little more in depth with the story, I probably would have tied her a little bit more into your character and have her show up a little more.
Oh yeah, I was waiting to have a good old fashioned Solarian off, but then the other guy started melee with me, so I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I guess I'm fighting this guy instead.
Yeah, and I don't think I even had her say much during last battle, but I kind of wanted to. But this kind of how it worked out. I didn't want to. This wasn't like a really in-depth character-driven game, so it was a big deal. But
You were also being new, like the rest of us, and
oh
especially
yeah, like I said, I totally forgot her main ability to like.
But yeah, you were also looking up rules as you're going, so you're easily distracted by just us all learning the game.
Yeah.
Sans
Yeah.
Calyx.
I just
Because y'all had the brilliant idea, like to hide behind things. So it's like the enemies walk into the room and just get shot immediately, and they can't do anything. So I'm like,
We understand the point behind a choke point.
yeah, which is kind of the idea, but also I don't know if they were really expecting everyone to be behind cover in the last one. But yeah, that Solarian could have like basically done that flame rush to one of the characters, and I just forgot to do that. But I also wanted to keep her close to the other guy so she could heal him when he could.
She was just intimidated by Illa. That's what it is.
Yeah.
One girl boss to another.
Yeah. One thing I want to say real quick to other people who play in like, don't feel bad if you don't come up with a backstory or only write one page. Like, yeah, I wrote multiple pages, but I'm a professional writer. I just enjoy writing out a long background story. It's not necessarily a mark of skill that my story is longer. It's just that I enjoy doing that. Like, if you come up with anything, whether you write it down or you don't, if you come up with a backstory of your character, that's still very cool and very good because it shows you're taking the time to think about what it's like to be in your character's headspace and what they went through in life, what kind of experience they have, and that always helps you build up more to roleplay. So, like, don't knock yourself if you only have a very short one paragraph background story, because it still shows that you've already started to do the work and get into that character's headspace and start to roleplay as them.
Yeah,
it's also. Go ahead.
No.
Okay, I got it. It's also that, particularly me, I come from a board game background as well, so I tend to think of things mechanically. I also come from a miniatures background, so I'll think of things in terms of what do I have a mini that could encapsulate this character, or can I make one on like Hero Forge, or find one on like Reaper Minis or something like that. And that's where I get the inspiration from the character, not so much from doing the backstory, but from looks and mechanics and build something around that. It's not, and as you say, it's not a way to disparage like one is better than the other or anything like that. Although I think writing a lot of backstory is definitely more helpful, but it is just a different way of like getting into that headspace of that character, whether through a background that they have or through just the feeling that you have when you are just imagining this character. And I think that's just an interesting sort of way of just seeing how other people approach that.
I love experiencing like role play, like the character. For example, I played World of Warcraft for like a long time, and I never hit level cap because I just hung out and role played like the entire time, and that's where I like have the most fun is through the interaction with the other characters, the NPCs, and even the world itself.
Yeah. And like this module wasn't like super roleplay heavy, but like the one I want to run when we have time is like I really want people to like get into their characters and like dig into like moral choices and things like that.
I'm so excited for my character for that one.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
Well, it won't be for a while. It's Blizzard soon, like you said.
Blizzard soon.
Yeah.
Joey's running like 6 other games in the meantime, so.
I'll run a game for Brice on Fridays now, so.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot,
Just
Brice.
for him.
It's a very intimate experience.
Yeah. One-on-one roleplay.
Oh, that's weird.
But I was saying we kind of run the gamut on types of characters in this group, because like we have Brice, who just decides to play a class and then doesn't know what his character is. He just wants to play the class.
Your backstory is pages and pages. Mine is none. We make up my backstory as we go along.
And like I had to basically say, okay, how about this?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, that works for a reason I'm here. Then we have like Mark, who just thinks something sounds cool, and then we'll write like a little bit why he's there, but it's mostly just he wants a cool miniature.
I have at various times I have been like, this is a mini that I have, and it's a unique looking mini.
Well,
I'll be
it's your
like,
Curse
I
of
need
Strahd
a character
character.
for that one.
Yeah,
The Curse of Strahd character,
yeah.
I think that's a little more in depth than you're giving me.
Thanks, no.
You're giving me. I think it is. We'll get into that when we do the Curse of Strahd podcast in months.
No, I'm kidding. And then we have Boom, who we definitely talked about her background, but it was mostly just kind of a like I'm gonna feel about how you want to build her stats and kind of her personality and stuff. But then we have Calix, who writes the novel about his character.
It's okay. You know what? How many pages was it? It's not. I don't.
What font size was it? What font size was it? Okay.
Probably font size 16, because that's what I usually use since
Was
I
it
make
in
a lot
Comic Sans?
I think it was in Arial.
Oh, come on! You got to have the Helvetica. Oh, you might have Windows, so you don't have Helvetica.
So
yeah, I have Windows.
This is what I'm interested to know. A lot of us have, especially me, Brice, and Mark, have been D&D players for a little while now. How did you feel in like 5e D&D? How did you feel about switching systems with Starfinder here?
Real quick, it was 11 pages. That's not long at all.
Okay, it's not long at all. I'll give you
16-point font, double space, 11 pages is not long.
I'm pretty sure my film theory paper in college was 18, just under the 20 I needed. But okay, you're right. 11's not that long.
So Mark, tell me how you hated all the math in Paizo systems.
So changing to other systems, I've been playing and running D&D exclusively since I started playing in 2018, I want to say, just around when Critical Role started Campaign 2. And that's pretty much the only thing I had ever played other than Star Wars RPG, the old West End Games one, from like the 80s, which I played a later version of, or something like that, with friends when I was younger. So I haven't really had to change systems, even to something more complicated, to something less complicated, blah, blah, blah. The only other things I've done is that we did a D&D buddy of mine wanted to run Pathfinder 2, and so we ran that maybe like a year or two ago, and we did like a starter adventure for that, and that was the only other difference I did. And Starfinder 2 at least is more similar to, Pathfinder 2 is more similar to Starfinder than D&D is, so I at least knew what I was getting into. The big difference, and this is mainly a me thing, and other people might have as well, but for me, I can get analysis paralysis when choosing options. Not when like doing stuff in the game, but like when choosing options. And they throw everything at you right from level 1. And so it's just so much So
And
for me, I wasn't able to really just get into that sort of customization at that level.
Yeah, and they add stuff like every time they release a chapter of an adventure path. They add feats, they add races, they have backgrounds, they add all this other stuff.
And I like that. I like having the options, but not knowing them, and then have it not be rolled. You not being able to roll into that as at like an increasing sort of level. You just here's 100 options that you can get just because there's so many there.
Here's what it would normally be. You would have the core. You have the physical core rulebook, which has a handful, and maybe like the first Alien Archives.
Yeah.
But then they make, well, here's a book about another thing that has a bunch of other options, and here's another bunch of other options. Where D&D only does that, like, they did that like twice with Tasha's and Xanathar's. But Paizo does it all the time. They're constantly releasing, which is, I think is a good thing. But it does lead to these webs to this character builder where you have everything from the past 6 years just laid out.
5 pages of feats.
Yeah.
At level 1.
Yeah.
And that's just when you're listing the titles. That's not when you expand them. That's 5 pages of titles.
Well, that's why if you're looking at 5 pages, that must have been the abridged version.
Yeah, that's why I suggested, if you feel overwhelmed, check off everything but the core rulebook and maybe like Alien Archives 1. And then the adventure that we're playing. And that will give you like a much narrower list. Because sometimes those feats are like really in those backgrounds are really specific to the adventure they're in.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
Which and sometimes they can only be used in those adventures too. I know from a DM standpoint, once I realized you basically just take advantage of disadvantage from D&D, which is very simple, and then just change it to plus and minus 2 or plus or minus 4 for these abilities. And it's really not that much different.
It's more about it seems more about the numbers with Pathfinder and Starfinder. I know that there's a joke of Mathfinder, and it's more presented that way rather than chances, percentages, blah blah blah. It's like you're trying to hit numbers.
I know, Brice. We were having that talk one night, and I said, if it wasn't for that online character sheet, I don't think we would have been having as much fun with it because we would be worried too much about like keeping track of advantages and disadvantages, or like minuses and pluses. And
I feel that same way about D&D though. If I didn't have Beyond 20, it wouldn't be as fun. Like, I know it's a lot different than you just looking at what your modifier is for a thing. But D&D has some ongoing things. You have a spell on, and you or if you have a piece of equipment that gives you plus something to rolls or advantage, you got all that stuff to remember too.
Because I've never played D&D in person, so like I'm used to having like all the little markers and stuff. And I guess if you're in person, you have to like make little cards to remember you have.
Yeah,
I think you kids these days and your online tools. Back in my day, we played in person and we didn't use any cards. No, you read that book and you memorized it. Then you showed up for the session.
You speak as somebody who does DM in person. I haven't in a while, but I do. It does. There are benefits and detriments to either doing it physically or doing it digitally. In digital, you can keep track of numbers, health, stats, initiatives, things like that a lot simpler. In physical, you can it's easier to manipulate like the stuff that's going on the grid you're using and move around and things like that, and to physically be able to bounce off people and coordinate with other people in the same room.
The role playing is probably a little easier because
it's
when people aren't talking and if they're paying attention and all that stuff.
Totally see if they're on the phone. Totally see if they're on the phone.
Yep.
Yeah, I So I run games online now. I used to run them in person. I kind of do half online, half offline. I do a lot of stuff offline with my own stuff. I have my Excel documents I love in my session playing documents. But yeah, the online tools are definitely useful. But I still really miss the social aspect of playing in person, which I hope I get to do another in person group sometime in the future.
In person is definitely a lot of fun. I don't want to say I prefer. I used to prefer in person, but after I started meeting a bunch of cool people online that live really far away, I've gained an appreciation for online too, and especially because of things like Hephaestus and stuff like that, which would be a little awkward to use in a in-person session, but
the tools
I feel that
your house and not wear pants.
Yeah, I also not wear pants though. Not saying
You're missing out.
Not objecting to that, but the argument about the no cool people online, I feel like that's the greatest argument for online that basically does make online play better. Is that no matter where your friends are, you can play with them. I literally have had to quit campaigns or disband groups because people moved or I moved, and then we weren't able to continue them anymore. And that is a really cruddy feeling, especially when you're in the middle of the campaign and doing stuff. My poor Feng Shui campaign fell apart because of people moving.
What? You played Feng Shui?
Yeah, I've played it and GM'd it. I have the version. I have the 1.0 version core rules. I have not played second edition Feng Shui.
We're talking later.
Okay, but I gotta let you know that Feng Shui is cursed. Every group I've played with, the game has fallen apart, and not from drama. It's never been from drama. It's always been real life things happening, like people moving. We were playing online, and people get jobs or shift changes, and there's no longer a day where everyone can meet up and play. Just every single time I've run it, we have never finished the campaign. Or every single time I've run it, and every single time I've played it, we have never finished the campaign because every single time something happens. And again, it's nothing like drama or people arguing that could have been easily prevented. It's all stuff that we just like your boss, like 3 people in the game group, their boss suddenly tells them you're working a different shift now. There's not a whole lot we can do about that.
So thank you, Roll20.
No, you don't have to worry about disappearing and going away.
Just like the commercial says.
Adventures.
Just like the commercial says, even though we're all apart, we can still play together.
Yeah.
So,
but I will give Feng Shui another try and GM it another time if you guys really want to. But I'm just warning you, that game is cursed.
So, like when I do run that larger Starfinder campaign, are you guys like put off by the extra math you have to do?
No, not me.
Yeah.
The thing that I didn't like about Starfinder is that I didn't have all the rules memorized like I do with D&D.
Yeah, I mean,
that eventually becomes a curse, though. I've played second edition. I've played second edition D&D, third edition 3.5. I haven't played fourth edition, but I've read the books. I've played 5e. I've played Pathfinder 1. I've played Starfinder, and I've read the rules for Pathfinder 2 and the rules for Pathfinder 2 remastered. So now there are so many D20 rule systems in my head that I sometimes just pull things from the wrong rule system.
Definitely as a player, like I told, okay, just know what your character can do. And like, if you want to do something cool, there's probably a mechanic for it. And like definitely as a DM, like I on the other tab, I had the list of terminology. So I was like, okay, what's a bull rush? Like, what does that do? What penalty does that do?
This is the power of shit. I had something that's gone. Crap! I did not store it in long-term memory. It's gone. Damn it! I'll come back to it.
Yeah. But like I was never the type. Like I didn't read the rule book for Starfinder. Like I did watch a few videos to know the basic. But like whenever I wanted to know what something did, I looked up on Archives of Nephis or.
Wait! I remembered. Sorry. Based on that, what you're basically saying is that D&D has the improvise action, where it doesn't restrict you to the rules, and the DM can find a way to fit what weird action or thing that you want to do if it seems like it can work mechanically. And that's the greatest strength of these kind of things, is to say, if you don't know what it is, just say what you want to do, and we'll find something that sounds fair. And that seems to just, if it's a big thing in D&D, at least for when I'm playing, or when you're playing with new people, that's a lot of fun.
And that's the thing that... Oh, sorry.
Or when you don't know the rules, such as most of us in this thing, learning as we go. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's a thing that will always make tabletop RPGs superior to video games. To me, I love video games, so no, I say this with a heavy heart because I love them, but the fact that you can have a GM to facilitate things that aren't necessarily within the rules, or nobody knows the official rules for, to basically just say, okay, this is how we're going to do it, roll this, and we'll see what happens. Like, there's no way to replicate that in a game, in a video game.
Well, there was like one point in the last session where I got really hung up about if this character is surprised or not, when you bust through the door. And I was like, there must be some sort of mechanic for this. And Mark, you said, like, just choose something. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
It's sometimes you just gotta let go and just be like, what feels like would work. Because players are not gonna be, unless you're playing with like a super like rule strict bunch of people.
Yeah.
That they're generally just not going to care if you just say, you know what, I don't know if they're surprised, but I'll give you some sort of boon for just being in an advantageous position.
Yeah, in like this case, they might have a minus 2 to AC, or even though that may not mechanically be the right thing. One thing I did notice as a DM, turn this down a little bit, volume, is that I was a little more stickler for some of the rules. Where in D&D I would kind of hand wave them. Things like in D&D I usually let people shoot, if they have a ranged weapon, shoot through allies without penalty. Because like in my mind it's like, oh, the character just steps out of the way. It's like 5 feet's a long way. It's not a big deal. But in Starfinder there's a rule about cover saying, oh no, if there's a creature in front of you, then it counts as cover, with a -4 penalty. So I was like, okay, I gotta keep in mind on that.
Starfinder seems a bit more granular when it comes to those kind of things, especially with like all the feats that they have. Something you can just say like, hey, can I do this? There's a feat for it. So, technically you probably shouldn't be able to do that because you don't have the feat.
I forget if one of you was having a question about it, but it's like, hey, can I do this? And I said, well, there's a feat that specifically lets your character do that, so maybe this time
that was the cooking the grenade, because we looked that up.
Oh yeah, cooking the grenade. It was like, so logically it's like, yeah, you can do that, but there's a feat that lets you do that, like all the time.
I know for people listening, I'm going to be like a contrary for a lot of these things because I am from the opposite, where I have more experience with Pathfinder and Starfinder than 5e. So I'm like, yeah, this is the stuff I like. I like all the options. And I'm someone. A new Pathfinder book would come out, and I would buy it and read it cover to cover as soon as it arrived, and I just internalize it, and that's. So I would just read all the options and just internalize them because I'm a crazy person. Who for some reason finds that fun.
Go ahead, Boo.
Oh, I come from way off in left field, and I mostly specialize in Vampire the Masquerade and other World of Darkness games. I've always kind of, I don't want to say dislike, but D20 games were never my favorite. I'd play them, I'd have fun with them, but I'd always prefer D10. Something about Starfinder, I think what it is the, instead of having the advantage and stuff like that, you get bonuses for different situational things that not only you control, but the environment, the enemies, etc. And getting that little +1 or the -2 to the enemy's AC, or had Bolt's grenade hit, the +1 to laser damage, that feels really, really meaningful. And I really like that about the system.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. It's like, that grenade is basically like a fairy fire in D&D.
Sure. Well, yeah.
Advantage. But like in D&D, it's like they get advantage, which is like huge in this game. And I'm sure you can do upgrades and stuff, but it's just a +1. So you kind of have to take every advantage you can get to.
Yeah, And it really encourages you to be creative about the tactics, to be like, how many +1s can I find here?
Yeah.
Can I make happen?
And there was some things too, like there's combat styles with guns where you can ignore cover, if you use a certain type of weapon, or and there's different like gun types. There's automatic rifles where you can spray the entire magazine and like hit everyone in a cone, but it like uses all your rounds, things like that. Like that junk cannon you found, which you didn't end up using, but like that basically takes up a chunk of your inventory space, and you shoot out like a junk grenade, things like that. There's a lot of variety in the weapons and armors and upgrades, which is just lacking in D&D.
But it's a better focus in D&D. That's the thing. Is that
it's mostly about like magic items in D&D, where at least in Starfinder, I feel it's like, yeah, you're going to have to be upgrading your weapons every couple of levels, upgrading your armor, because like it will get outclassed as you level up.
I'm gonna be honest, I was planning on giving that junk cannon back to the Vesk, but we all saw where that ended.
That's one thing I like about this. Like it's pretty common knowledge that the gold economy in D&D like is broken. So what I like about Starfinder, and I assume Pathfinder too, is they have ways you always have to spend your money as you level up.
Yeah, and a lot of this Pathfinder has a lot more magic items, just basic magic items like the equivalent to strength boosting gloves. Instead of raising your strength to a certain level, in Pathfinder they have +2, +4, and +6 gloves. Which means that if you put them on a 20 strength character, you can get to 26 strength instead of max.
D&D does have that too. They're generally rarer because it puts people over maximum, or stat increases mean a little more in D&D mathematically, I believe.
Yeah, and what I mean is that it's an extremely common treasure in Pathfinder that once you reach a certain level, you're just going to find enemies who are wearing these and will basically most likely be buying a headband or a belt to boost your primary stat. And I've shown the screenshot from Wrath of the Righteous, the Pathfinder game, where my character just has like a 60 something strength at the end game.
Yeah. Another thing in D&D too, it's like during a course of a campaign, unless you find like a magic, like a unique weapon, like probably the only upgrade you're ever going to do is like get a +1 weapon, maybe a +1 armor, But in this, it's like we upgraded our weapons like twice during this 3-level game. So
the thing is that that's also a bit of like not scope creep, but like
power creep, power seep.
It's a bit of a power creep, but yeah, it's a bit of that, but because it's mainly another thing where it's like, okay, here's 50 different things that you can choose from now for your armor, and then for your weapon, and then for your thing. It's a lot.
Yeah, there's a thing that does
have
happen,
to be, but it is.
And the thing that does occur with Pathfinder that I will freely admit does is that for the power creep situation is oftentimes later books will release something that already existed as a previous ability, but the new version of it is just straight up better. So there's no reason to ever take the old version of it ever again.
Yeah, there's probably examples in this too.
But
there's definitely some like armor, and I think basically you all took it on the Edge Corp armor, the EG armor. Like it has great stats and it has upgrade slots, and it's just better overall than all the other starting equipment. And I think that's kind of an example of like this book released. Just really affordable, good armor at low levels. So, like, why else would you? Unless the DM like doesn't let you take it from that book. Like, why else would you choose that stuff?
It makes things obsolete.
Yeah,
and that in itself is a different problem.
The DM would always have the option to say, "Oh, well, the vendor only has one of those in stock," or something like that.
Yeah.
Having said that, I cannot play 5e because I get bored. I'm sorry, I know that's terrible, but I feel like casters are so crippled in 5e compared to what I'm used to. And I know casters basically become gods in 5e, so that should tell you what I'm used to. But
Oh man, it's like,
I
I can't believe you being like, man, somebody casting Wish is just so weak.
Well, think about-
Who casts Wish these days? There's so many better things to use your level 9 spell slots on. You're gonna waste it on Wish?
So I do want to wrap it up a little bit, but we haven't really talked about the adventure itself. So just overall, like, was there any standout moments in the in Chunker's Delight?
Definitely Merc. Merc
Yeah, the
and
MPP.
Merc and Merc's husband, Mr. Merc. We'll call
Merc
him.
Merc and Question.
Quest,
Yeah.
that's it. I love those two characters. They were definitely my favorite. And I was also like, just all of the characters, all of them.
Yeah, I didn't dislike anyone.
Yeah, the maps were also nice. It's like good art.
The
on all the
pacing
stuff,
was
like-
really good. Like,
Yeah.
everything flowed really well in that adventure.
Oh yeah, like this was their first like standalone like one book adventure. Usually they have the adventure pass, which will take over several books.
Mhm.
But this was just like a nice and neat 1-3 adventure. Tells a complete story. And I agree with you with the characters. I loved RPing Merc and Quesh.
I think you really brought a lot of them to life. I even remember that one true warrior that I didn't kill and I told to leave. Like I don't know if it was the like module itself or just you playing the characters, but I had a lot of fun interacting with them, even like in very limited situations.
I remember the true warrior that I spared twice. The first time we showed back up again, my character was just so angry. It's like, hey, watch me murder your friend. Thinking about you while I'm doing this. Come, love you.
I think from a story standpoint, the true warrior should have showed up one more time after the first chapter to kind of keep them being a threat.
Yeah, they're kind of just not there in the second chapter, and then show up again at the very end.
Yeah. I don't know how you would fit them in, but unless you like add some stuff. But
the only thing you could probably do would be to do the thing we faked, where have them trying to get a stake in that area.
yeah. Again, like I didn't want to alter too much because by the time Tetrolo showed up, I was like, we haven't seen these guys in like five sessions.
Yeah,
Like, it wasn't a lot of build up to them anymore.
Also, oh my gosh, it feels so bad. We come. I think Ilya was the one who came up with the plan of blaming everything on creating a fake invasion by the true warriors, and then nothing comes of it because the true warriors are just absent until the last session.
Yeah. Well, I remember in the first episode, you were like, oh, the true warriors took over this Kefik depot. We should go take them down. And like in my mind, I was like, oh no, the adventure isn't about that. It's about something else. Don't do that.
Wolf, because of his history with the true warriors, just anytime the true warriors show up, Wolf just immediately gets in a fighty mood and is like, I want to go kill them all.
Yeah.
One of the things I really enjoyed about this story is that it was simple. We were helping this android find a data disk. It's literally like what the entire story was all about, but it still was super enjoyable. And I was really invested in it, even though it was such a simple, like, it was literally a fetch quest, but it was a really fun fetch quest.
Yeah, like I like the fact that, you found the location of the ship and there's warring gangs in the middle of this, so you have to deal with the gangs first, and then you can get to the thing.
And this is actually what a lot of book one adventures are like in Paizo, is that you'll be dealing with like a fetch quest or something that's very simple to down, then you'll basically either fall into or by accident or discover a greater threat ongoing from then. Except for the campaign where you just wake up and it's like, congratulations, you're dead. Would you like to fight your way out of the boneyard?
I also liked RPing as Very 13 because I got to bring out my inner Data.
I loved Very 13.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sad the Vesk that we stole the stuff from turned out to be dead, because I'm like, okay, I'm preparing myself to negotiate with this guy and try to talk to him into it. I'm like, he's dead. I was all tightened up for no reason, being afraid of this.
I actually added the part where you find his body, because the book just said, yeah, he died somewhere.
So they put the guy on the cover of the book, and then kill him off screen and never talk about him again.
Okay, so we actually mentioned this.
Yeah.
The guy in the front is actually one of the Iconics, one of the kind of official NPCs. Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense, but still, they introduce a guy and kill him off screen with no way to actually follow up or investigate his death.
Yeah. I think I showed a few pictures where they're hanging out, and the Vesk is just one of the Iconics.
I just remember that entire time I feel like I am a terrible person, but I am desperate to not die against that giant robot, so I guess we're taking his stuff.
I do kind of wish the cover kind of shows the Ishekis and the space goblins like cheering as you fight the golem in the artwork, and I thought it would have been kind of cool if they like threw you into like a gladiator pit and you had to fight that off the golem.
I honestly liked how a lot of the things that happened and a lot of the objectives could there was a variety of ways you could deal with it. It wasn't just go kill the goblins that are opposing you, kill the Isheki, kill this, get one faction to kill the other faction. We actually had a somewhat peaceful solution to a lot of the situations that came up.
Yep, and in chapter 2, I mentioned that actually alters the boss fight a little bit. Like if you let the space goblins go, who you trade the thing for, like they give the boss like a buff, and if any of the Ishekis like get away, then they give their boss a buff too. So like, I like how there was like two ways to handle each situation, but if you kind of do quote unquote the right thing with the space goblins, it actually kind of gives you a disadvantage a little later on, even if it's just like a little bit,
It's like, gosh darn, Paizo, I'm trying so hard not to be a murder hobo. Stop encouraging me to be a murder hobo.
But I mean, at the same time, we made like an ethical choice, and even though like I feel more fulfilled, even though it kind of screwed us over, because we didn't just kill these random goblins.
Oh no, I don't regret that we didn't kill them at all. If we went back even knowing that it would give a buff, I would make the same decision again, because it would not. My character gets a little fighty when the true warriors are around, but my character isn't a sadist. He doesn't want to just go murder people for the sake of murdering people. So like if something could be resolved diplomatically, that's how he would rather do it.
Did you know that Calix probably knows, but the goblins from Pathfinder and the space goblins from Starfinder are actually two separate species.
See, I actually did not know that. I thought it was just more advanced than the Pathfinder goblins rather than a brand new species. And then of course there's Pathfinder 2nd Edition goblins, which is weird because they're the same as 1st Edition goblins, but they're also completely different.
Yeah, I think the space goblin lore is they're just goblins. And then they basically were stowaways on human spaceships and stuff as they went off into space before the gap. And they just kind of hung out in like space stations and stuff until they just kind of changed into another type of goblin.
Okay, and now I gotta say this because I'm suddenly anxious that someone's gonna go, what are you talking about? They're completely the same. Okay, so Pathfinders in 2nd Edition are playable characters, which means that they're no longer an always chaotic evil race because they can have the same agency as a player character. So that's what I mean when they're completely different in 2nd Edition.
Yeah,
they're a core race. They're not just playable. They're a core race.
Oh, they're core. I heard that Skittermanders are becoming a core race in 2nd Edition Starfinder.
As they should be.
Nice.
And I think there's some cat people that are becoming core races. Probably a couple other ones too. Some of the more popular ones.
If Wolf had died, odds are I probably would have made a Skittermander Mystic instead to
We can
come
still
in.
kill Wolf if you want. We can just have a little game where it's all just like everybody.
Nope, it's
kill
too
Wolf.
late. It's too late. It's
Okay,
settled.
all right.
It's settled. He made it. He survived. It's over.
That's one thing I kind of think to myself. It's like, by the time we're ready to play a full Starfinder game, second edition will probably be out. But I really want to play this adventure path that's already released. So
Also, I really want to play Witch Warper. I intentionally put that off so I could play it in a later thing. If you switch to second edition, I can't play Witch Warper. I will be so sad.
yeah, because I was thinking it's like I would kind of just rather play second edition. It was like, no, I want to. We have all the options for first edition, so we'll be.
So depending on how much they're gonna do with like, I haven't played a Starfinder second edition, but I played Pathfinder second edition, and I really like what they did with the action economy in Pathfinder 2.
It's gonna be fully compatible with each other.
That's good because the way they do it in that one is that everything you have, rather than being a type of action, it has 0, 1, 2, or 3. Essentially action points, and you can use up to like 3 action points in your turn and a reaction or whatever, blah blah blah. So you can choose to like shoot 3 times, move, shoot, move, things like that, whatever, as long as you can pay for it all. And that's a very nice way of keeping things having a lot of options, but not going overly complex with how they all work with each other.
Yeah, like I haven't looked at
what was with this Starfinder was with this. I was always looking at that chart that you gave us. So it was like, what kind of action is this? Blah blah blah. And hard to get track.
Yeah, like the action economy in Starfinder is a little more confusing. I haven't looked into second edition to see how they handle that because I don't want to get my wires crossed with the rules. So I'm not even looking at that stuff yet. But if we ever do any Pathfinder, I'm obviously going to have to look at some Pathfinder rules. So Starfinder would find stars again, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. I like you were. I didn't chime in then, but the talking about the weapons with the upgrade, it feels more like a video game. You come, you finish your mission, and you are leveling up, and you need the next tier of equipment.
I kind of like that, though.
Yeah.
I caught myself like just going through the weapons, and ultimately I stuck with my starting weapon, and it was totally fine.
Yeah.
And reading through them, I saw that there was some, a lot of them had special effect, elemental stuff, and so, I could see in longer campaigns where you might kind of have an armory that you have different abilities that you're going to pick a different loadout based on the mission.
Yeah, like none of you really had to change weapons, but in like a level or two, they would have like doubled their damage dice.
Yeah, at level 6, my calls suddenly start dealing 2d6.
Yeah, it definitely with the armor. Boom, like you were looking at the armor, saying, I don't think I'm going to upgrade my armor, and I'm like, no, trust me, you're going to gain like 3 or 4 armor class if you buy your new armor. These things are these guys are going to start hitting really hard coming up. Because like Tetrolo had like a plus 13 to hit or something like that.
Wow.
So, yeah. Maybe not that high. I think the Golem had like a plus 11 or something. But yeah, the armor classes we're starting to get higher than what D&D usually is, even at this at level 3.
Yeah, that Golem got me good a couple times.
Yep. So like I said, we're not going to be running that full adventure for a while because I have other commitments. But that didn't stop me from flipping through the book. So if I have the time, we may start near the end of the year, but we'll see.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for trying out Starfinder with us.
It's definitely great.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Many of you will be invited to the full game, but not Mark. Probably not Mark.
Oh, good.
I have to run Humblewood for Joey because
Yeah,
he needs to run Humblewood. He needs
Humblewood.
Humblewood run for him. Yeah, I need. I have other hobbies that I have not been able to do, so I need like my Mondays back.
Yep, your Mondays are now free for the foreseeable future.
Hey, I can assemble some miniatures, and then maybe paint them.
All right, and thanks for listening, guys. And you haven't listened to our Starfinder game, go ahead and do that. At
Or
YouTube,
else.
or at youtube.com/JustPlayChat. All right, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Night.
Okay,
Good
ciao.
night.